Hi, welcome to another exciting episode of the Andre The Beast Crayton Show. Today, we're going to dive deep into a topic that pretty much this show is based around. Let me go a little bit deeper. Everybody says, what is that beast mindset? My question is not exactly what is a beast mindset, but how do we get the mindset? Simple. I call it trials and tribulations, mind growth. What did you learn from it? What were the situations that took place? And how do you keep evolving? That's that beast mindset. Today, we have a young man who is going to share his journey into that beast mindset, his own beast mindset, because we all got that journey. We can take friends with us, but at the end of the day, you got to do it on your own. And he's going to share his story on how he was able to come out of the conventional way of thinking to that new mindset. And he's actually teaching other individuals how to elevate. And I'm using some powerful words today. What's going on with me? Today on the show, all the way from Arizona, I'd like to welcome Jason Lamar to the show. What's up, Jason?
What's going on, man? I appreciate you having me.
We're look at that beard, guys. That beard is hitting. That beard is hitting. I got after we get done with the show, I'm gonna ask him what he put in his beard. I'm tired of people asking me what's in my beard. I'm getting ready to get me some information on what's in his beard. But before we get started, Jason, tell the viewers a little bit about who Jason Lamar is before we get into your story.
Oh, Jason Lamar is a mindset coach, California originally. Made some poor choices when I was younger, but turned it around, realized, took responsibility, realized everything that I had done was on me. And if I was able to mess my life up, then I was able to turn it around. And I did exactly that.
Damn, that's deep. California, what's it like growing up in California? First of all, we hear the
Oh man,
story, we hear the stories about the Compton, the Long Beach, and the rap stories. But what's it really like growing up in California as a young man?
so I can't speak to California nowadays, but when I was there, 90s, early 2000s, it was a lot of the songs depicted pretty accurately. I had good parents who tried to steer me away from all of that, but I still got caught up in it and wanted to hang with the people making poor decisions, and that led to me making some poor decisions myself.
Mhm. When you talk about you come from good parents, we're talking both mother and father, strong
Yes.
foundation. What was your mother and father's occupation, if you don't mind me asking?
My mother bounced around and did different stuff, but for the most part, she stayed at home raising me and my sister. My father was in sales my whole entire life. He owned a wood shop when I was very, very young. I wasn't old enough to be around for that, but he told me stories of it. I actually didn't see my dad for a great bit until I was 15 years old, maybe not because he was absent or anything. He just spent all of his time working. He traveled a lot for work. So every few weeks I would see him on the weekend, but as I got older, I understood that he was doing what it was that he had to do to make sure that we were taken care of.
You said as you got older, and I can kind of relate. I got a feeling I know where uh, what you can really tell me. How close was you with your father? Because you just said something. As you got older, you realized he was working and doing certain things. So
Yep.
was there a disconnect or some type of let me put my words into it so it make sense. My father was there growing up, but he was there with the money. But I wanted him to be there emotionally. Just imagine getting a scholarship and everybody's parents are there, but your parents are not there. I remember when They call it the National Signing Day. Well, National Signing Day when I grew up was a couple of news media cameras and a couple of friends. Now it's ESPN Global, but at that time, the most important piece to that puzzle was I really wanted my father there. But as I got older, I realized, hey, he was doing what he did. You know what I mean? So was that kind of like your situation with your dad?
Yeah, very similar. Like I said, he traveled a lot for work, so he was constantly out of town. He would take two some odd week trips, and even during the week or whenever he was present, whenever he was working, he worked a good 2 hours away from where it was that we lived. So he would be gone before I woke up, and he would be back by the time that I was in bed. And he was much stricter than my mother. He was a disciplinarian, which I greatly appreciate now. But at the time, I resented him for that. I barely saw him, and he would just pop back up, and, tell me what I couldn't be doing or tell me what it was that I should be doing. So when I was younger, I didn't really appreciate it, but now I'm able to look back and see that a lot of where my mindset comes now is stuff that he has instilled in me or stuff that I picked up from watching and listening to him and just seeing how he conducted himself.
Do you think that moving forward, a lot of the decisions or choices that you made was out of rebellion because the fact that you was questioning why you giving me things to do and being so forceful if you wasn't this is probably the mindset. I'm trying to ask you. This is probably the mindset that young men and probably females have when it comes to dealing with authority and the parents and the lack of what we consider being a parent.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You're absolutely correct on that. He would come and tell me what I couldn't do or tell me who to avoid and then kind of leave again. So that was exactly the people I wound up hanging around as the people that he told me that I should avoid. I wound up doing all of the things that he told me that I shouldn't do, probably a great deal because simply he told me not to do it.
What were some of the choices that you made that um now that you look back on, you go, wow. And why do you think you made them outside of that? But I know it's peer pressure too, but what were some of the choices that you did make?
Oh, so man, I wanted to hang out with the gang members and the drug dealers. I listened to, all the 50 Cent was big when I was a kid, all of that. So I wanted to be a part of that. That was really what I had to look up to.
Mhm.
So and those were the older people. Those were the only really older people that I had access to was the people who weren't doing anything positive, but just wanted their approval. I wanted their validation. I wanted them to tell me that I was a certain way or get the head nods and the all of that.
What was the consequences of following these individuals with your life growing up?
Oh man, the big in all honesty, I've been arrested several times. I found myself in juvie for a little bit. I wound up on house arrest off of that and on probation for quite some time. But I think the biggest consequence, quite honestly, was the world view that I had taken away from it and how I viewed people around me and everywhere I would go, I would think that some people were having some sort of issues with me or something like that, or I was going to have a problem everywhere that it was that I went. And from looking at the world that way, I kind of manifested that and got myself into a lot more trouble than I necessarily needed to be in simply because I was in a way looking for it.
How did you want what was the part of your life? Because you mentioned being detained numerous times in your life. I don't like using the word incarceration. Let's just call it you was detained. Detained simply means to me you try to find a way to reevaluate your life or the circumstances. What was the one pivoting point out of these unfortunate detainments that the light bulb finally went off? What was that one spark that made you go, okay, I need to quit this shit?
So the big thing for me, I was actually a little bit older, 22, maybe 23 years old. I had a friend that I met, friend that I met when I first moved to Charlotte. He had an older brother who was always in something. He was in and out of jail all of the time for various misdeeds, so to speak. And I always got along with him really well. But one day we were having a conversation and he said that I reminded him of a younger him. And I had to pause and I thought, this is not what I want my life to be looking at how things are for you.
Mhm. When he says a younger him, what was he doing that? What were you doing that made him even resort to that question?
So it was a lot of conversations that we would had. It was having issues with people, or because when I was younger, the cool thing was to, not let anyone look at you away, talk to you a certain way without immediately going to some form of violence. That
Mhm.
was the mindset at the time, I guess. And again, I wanted the approval from all of the older people that I was around telling me, yeah, you're down, you're real.
You wind up leaving California to go. Did you say North Carolina?
North Carolina, yeah, when I was 18.
Why did you go to North Carolina from California?
So my dad actually moved out there for work, but looking back on it now, it occurred to me that the reason that he even went and took that job in the first place was to get me away from what I was around.
Hmm. Get you another opportunity. Did you see it as an
Yeah,
opportunity?
absolutely.
Did you see it as an opportunity?
At
And
the time, no. At the time, I was furious. I hated everything. I hated Charlotte. I hated North Carolina. I hated my parents for making me go there. And I was on probation at the time. So one of the conditions of my probation was that I had to live with them. So I didn't really have a choice in the matter. And I resented everyone for it. But it wasn't until I got older that I realized that him making that choice to take me over there was what it was that kept me from winding up in a much worse situation than anything that I had been in.
mhm, were you still making unsafe choices when you
as
got
soon as soon as I got there, as soon it within a week or two, I found some people that I should not be around and immediately went to
right?
do things that I should not be doing.
What your dad say, look, boy, when are you gonna get it through your head?
Oh man, no, he kicked me out of the house as soon as he found I had an ounce of weed in my room that he found and kicked me out immediately.
You was still were you still on probation when he put you out?
I was I had just so this was 2006. I went up on probation. Towards the end of the year, he had went out to California because he was always out there on business, and he had did whatever it was that he did. He got me off of it early and got my record expunged. So I had just gotten off of probation.
What happened when your dad removed you from the place of residence? Did you have an outlet to go to, or
No, I wound up living at a bus stop mostly off of Albemarle and Farm Pond in Charlotte.
when you're laying there? I told you I can relate. When you're laying there in the back of a car or whatever, what were some of the thoughts that was going through your head?
So I was mad at everyone because at the time I was blaming everyone for the situation that I was in except for myself.
Mhm.
But I think different than a lot of people, I didn't just stop it there. I realized that I had to still get myself out of the situation.
When you say out of it, what do you mean?
I had to find a place to live. I had to find a way to make money. I had to find a way to feed myself. I had to find a way to get myself a car to get myself out of the bus stop inside.
How long were you homeless?
3, 4 months.
Really? How did you maneuver? How did you maneuver? That's crazy.
Oh man, it was
Now that you look back on it, I mean, you probably like, holy shit. Like, how did you maneuver? How did you shower? How did you eat? How did you stay warm? The-
so fortunate. The warmth wasn't too big of an issue. It was closer to summertime. But as far as showering, gym membership, there was a Dollar Tree near me at the time. This was when everything was still a dollar or less there. You get a pack of hot dogs for 79 cents.
Mhm.
And you could just eat those. You don't have to cook them or anything like that. But of course, at the time, my biggest focus was making sure that I had some weed to smoke, some Black and Mild, stuff like that. So I was still focused on the wrong things.
What would that, I don't know that much about recreational things. When you was doing searching for the black and miles or whatever the high, did it? How long were you temporarily comfortable with that state of mind that the drugs had you down?
Very, very little, but one of the biggest issues with weed is that you smoke it. It makes you feel good about everything, or at the very least not care about your issues. So then you come down and you're like, you just want to get back to that feeling. And people always act like it's a harmless thing, but it while it might not have the same health effects as cocaine or something like that, it the effects on your mind and your motivation and your desire to be better is what's really detrimental about it.
Did you ever consider going back to your parents for help?
No, I was way too proud to do that.
Did they ever come to you to look for you?
They
See if all
we
right.
didn't speak for a while because I had no cell phones weren't everywhere at the time. I didn't have a cell phone. I didn't really have anything like that. So we didn't speak for 6, 7, 8 months.
Man, I'm speechless. So you basically just was like your pride was that deep that you said, "Fuck it, I'm gonna just stay out here until I figure it out."
Yeah, yeah, 1000%. Because the whole entire point was it was, and I had the issue with my dad and everything. He was telling me that if I was doing all of this, then I wasn't going to be able to make anything of myself or do anything or anything along those lines. So I didn't have it in me to admit that he was correct. So as long as I figured out a way, then he was wrong, and that was what was most important to me.
Now you're not the only child from your parents, correct?
I have a younger sister.
How was your younger sister dealing with your situation?
Um, I didn't really talk to her during that time either. She was finishing up high school, I believe. So, and again, cell phones weren't really a thing. She didn't have her own car. She didn't have her own phone. So I didn't talk to her until I was talking to them again. But we had issues for a while after that because she was upset about the stress that I was putting on my parents, which is rightfully so.
Were there moments that they put you out of your living arrangements? Were there moments? What was the bottom line here when you was out? When did you say, once again, enough is enough?
It had been, honestly, it didn't take that long for me to be like, enough of this is enough, maybe a week or so, because I was outside, didn't want to be outside. I wanted to go inside. Not being able to do that was awful. You know, you can't shower, you can't really lay down anywhere, you're never comfortable, you're not getting any real sleep for any extended period of time. It just took me a while to make enough money that I was able to change that fact.
What was your first job and how did you get it? You had no
My
resume.
first my first job, I was 15, 16. I worked at McDonald's. I was in California though. But at that time, I made enough money that I could stay at an extended stay, those little long-term hotel things you like pay for a week.
Mhm.
And from there, I went and I got a job at Bojangles. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. It's like a Popeyes or Church's type thing.
Mhm. When did your life really start to change around to where you're now teaching? So what was that spark that really elevated you to the point that you say, "Wow, I shouldn't have been blaming Tom, Dick, and Harry. I should have been actually turning the mirror around and looking at myself every day."
I didn't come to the conclusion that I need to look at myself, my own choices, and my own actions until I was 27, 28 years old, probably. And this is after I had started doing better. I wasn't doing super amazing, but I had a sales job that I've been working for at the time. I was making what to me at the time was a very decent amount of money. I had a new car, I had my own condo, so I was doing pretty good. But I would look around at the rest of the world. It was at a gym, so there'd be all different kinds of people who came into the gym, and there were people my age, slightly older than me, who were driving around Benzes and Jaguars and all kinds of fancy cars, who were making hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars a year. And I was like, well, if they're doing all of this stuff here and I'm only where I am at, clearly I'm doing something wrong.
Mhm.
And I need to figure out what that is.
Did anybody, did you meet anybody along the path of this self destruction that you're going through that took you up under the wing or kind of like mentored you or that you mentored yourself, after?
Unfortunately, the only people that I met when I was living more negatively who guided me in any sort of direction were people who were guiding me in the wrong direction. So that was never really something that helped me out, but it wound up kind of being reflecting on stuff that my dad had told me and stuff that I had heard people say, even stuff from songs and stuff like that. Just little tidbits of information that I would just kind of pick up and apply to my own situation.
When your life began to change, what was that like for you?
It was a really good feeling. It was because that was when the first time I really felt like I was in control of something and that I can get myself to where it is that I wanted to go. And I hadn't really felt like that for the majority of my life. I was very directionless. Even as I was doing better, I was still kind of just drifting along with no real purpose.
You wind up getting an opportunity to get into real estate. How did that opportunity happen? And was that one of the instruments that really made you start to connect the dots? That major opportunity.
So I I got into real estate when I first moved to Phoenix because it was a sales job and I had always done sales and I had heard that people made a lot of money doing real estate. So I went to go get my real estate license and I had stumbled across someone talking about real estate investment, wholesaling, flipping houses and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And it piqued my interest. I looked more into it. It was they were talking about flip houses with no money out of your own pocket. I came to realize that that isn't really how things worked, but that was the first thing that kind of led me to down a path of doing much better and where I really realized that there were a lot of bigger opportunities than what it was that I was aware of.
You decided, when did you decide to, did you ever go back to your mom and your dad and make amends? And if so, what was the things that you share with your mainly your dad, because that's who you had pretty much the battling of the bulls with?
Yeah, so unfortunately, so me and my dad started getting close again when I was 24, 25 years old. I still wasn't really in a place where I was fully aware that he was, teaching me everything that was best and he was instilling in me some good, solid wisdom and lessons. So I never got to have the conversation with him that I would have liked to have when I was, I think, 28 years old. He got diagnosed with what wound up being Alzheimer's. So by the time I realized that what he was telling me was stuff that I should have been listening to the whole time and the impact that his lessons had made, I never got a chance to really share it with him.
How does that make you feel now?
Um, so one of my perspectives in life is it came from him looking back that I realized that I try not to stress or worry myself over the things that I cannot do anything about. And I think that he would have had the exact same perspective had he found myself in his situation. So I try not to focus too much on that because there's not any good that it will bring me. Instead, I focus on what it was that he taught me and trying to implement that. And that's my way of kind of showing him that I understand and appreciate it, and I feel in whatever capacity he's aware of that.
You're now teaching mindset coaching. Explain to me why you're teaching it, what's the importance of it, and how is changing someone's mindset going to elevate them?
So the reason I teach it is because shifting the way that I thought is what changed my life. It is what allowed me to get to where it is that I am currently. It's what allowed me to get out of the phase of just being lost and kind of aimless and going through the world. And there was a I heard Nipsey Hussle say it. I don't honestly know if his quote, but the highest human act is to inspire. And I believe that if you figured out a way to improve your life, the best thing that you can do is teach other people how to improve their life. And the more lives that you can affect, the better that you are doing, making the world an overall better place as a whole. People like to talk about that all of the time, but they focus on all kinds of things that aren't actually actionable. I feel like if you actually want to make a difference, you have to do it on an individual person level. You create those kind of ripple effects from every single person that you help do something. As far as the importance of it goes, everything starts with your mindset and your perspective. The way you view the world shapes the world that you live in. Like I said earlier, when I was walking around thinking that I was going to have problems everywhere, I had problems with everybody. When I thought that I was unlucky, everything that happened was a sign of bad luck. And it's all about how you view things. The difference between trauma and triumph is your perspective on it.
You're now teaching mindset coaching. What are three of the things that you're seeing from individuals that you saw in yourself?
I'm sorry, in what aspect or what sense?
As you teaching mindset coaching to individuals, some of the students that you're running in contact with, I'm a firm believer that people do things in patterns. Like you said, if you walk around and you think bad luck, this happens, and so forth. What are three of the things that you find most common when you're teaching people mindsets? And what are those three things? And are these the same things that you saw in yourself?
Mm. So a big thing is people thinking that their past somehow dictates their present, that because they did or didn't do something a long time ago, that it limits what they can or cannot do currently, or what it is that, or who it is that they can or cannot be currently. A big Another big thing is a lack of accountability. It's very easy to assign off your problems. Well, I did this because of this, or I did this because of that, or because this happened, I'm here now. But they're not willing to go further down and think, well, if I chose to do this and that's what it is that put me here. And the not being willing to take accountability or responsibility for the situation that you've put yourself in gives power to everything but yourself, and it keeps you trapped where it is that you are.
How vulnerable do you have to be as a coach to inspire other individuals that you're working with?
So I've always been a very guarded, I don't know if it's guarded so much as to myself type person. My mother used to tell me that I should have been a spy, but this period of my life has been where I've been the most open about everything as far as my thoughts on stuff, my perspectives, things that I've been through, how things affected me. Because I've always believed for the most part that you should be invincible, and if not invincible, then perceived as invincible. And anything less than that was a weakness.
You said something. Your mom said you should have been a spy. Why she say that?
Because again, I was always very private. I was always very secretive. I never answered questions until I was fully aware of why the questions were being asked. I was I was just always very, like I said, guarded.
When you're when you're mentoring individuals, are you seeing a increase in different age brackets that people are shifting their way of thinking? And is it more so women or is it men?
I do coach some women, but for the most part, it's men. The vast majority are mid 20s to early 40s, but I do get a lot of people who are 16, 17, 18 who reach out to me, which I love to see because if I thought the way that I did when I was that age, there's no telling where I would be currently. So they don't always have the money for stuff, but I'm always here to offer advice to people who need it if I can.
Do you find that most of the people that you're trying to teach mindset coaching, um, is it more prevalent in low income families? Is it more prevalent in single parent in homes as it relates to men?
I think it kind of varies across it's a little bit of everybody. There are people in positions that you wouldn't at all expect who have just such negative views of everything that holds them back. Like they're already doing pretty good in life, but they're just so negative, or they have all of these limiting beliefs just in the back of their mind that are holding them back from being much more than they can be. And then on the lower income side, you have people who have all of these other kind of societally instilled beliefs that prevent them from thinking that it's even worth them trying to do more. So it does vary, but for different reasons.
What's the hardest part of your job when you're dealing with individuals?
The hardest part of my job is probably the most useful part of my job, which is I spend a large part of my time telling people things that they don't want to hear.
Like what?
But oh man, you all kinds of things, but mostly that something is their fault and why it is their fault that it has taken place. Whatever their situation, you did this. This is on you. You're lying to yourself. No, you did this. You fucked your life up. And it's one of the most useful things that people can hear, but it is also a difficult thing to just constantly tell people all day.
Do people usually? I know you get a lot of rebuttal, and people not willing to accept that accountability. You've been doing
Yep.
this for a while. How long does it take for someone to come to grips that you create your own universe, your own situations?
It depends how deep people are down the victim mindset of stuff, and how many things people have to point the fingers at. Like I talk to people who are like I've had people who've seen a video that I made and they're like, wow, this changed my whole entire perspective. It's I can see how stuff is on me. And then I've talked to other people and they're willing to accept it up to a certain point, and then they get to, I don't know, something that happened in their childhood or something like that, and all of a sudden that's where the accountability stops. So there's a lot of people who are willing to accept it up to a certain point. But some people come around quicker than others. I've had people get mad at me immediately, then come back to me months later and apologize and be like, "You were right. I understand what it is that you were saying now."
How much, as before we wrap up, how much of your teaching, let me rephrase this. How has social media
Mm.
crippled your ability to get your point across?
Honestly, I think social media, if it wasn't for social media, I wouldn't be doing what it is that I'm doing now. This is what has allowed me to get to a broader audience and reach the most amount of people. I know there's a lot of censorship type things, so to speak, and people have short attention spans probably due to
Mm.
social media. And if something doesn't catch their eye in the first 2 3 seconds, then they're on to the next thing. And if you look at the interesting thing is if you look at any social media platform, you can see the most viewed accounts are always people who are it's celebrities, it's the Kim Kardashians or the soccer dude whose name I can't forget. It's always nonsense and entertainment stuff like that. And people swear that they don't know what to do, but there are people everywhere giving out free information for stuff. But they focus on the escapism more so. But at the end of the day, like I know that my message and what I do isn't for everybody, but it catches the people that it needs to catch. And that's what's important.
Before we wrap up, you're looking in the mirror. You're looking in the mirror right now and you're talking to yourself. What are you telling yourself?
Keep going. Like, regardless, stuff is going to be hard. That's a good thing. The hard things are the better things. When I was younger, I used to want things to be easier. But when things are hard, that's when you know that you are on the right path.
How can the viewers reach out to you and learn more about changing their mindset, and what kind of individuals would serve best from your program?
Anybody who doesn't feel like they are where it is that they want to be in life and feels like they do not know where to go and is not sure why, as a whole, everybody can always use an improved mindset, but I can be reached. I'm on all social media, the Jason Lamar, shoot me a DM or whatever the mode of contact is on that platform. I get back to everybody.
Leave the viewers with that beast mindset that you deal with every single day.
Mm. Your world is a product of your worldview. Every single thing is what you make of it. Nothing is bad unless you label it as bad. There is a lesson to be learned in every single thing that happens. And without adversity, you will never be anybody worth being.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another exciting episode of the Andre the Beast Crayton Show.